So my name is Ryan Calabretta-Sajder, and I'm an Italian professor at the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville, here at the University of Calabria on a Fulbright scholarship. My family is half Italian-American. My mom's side, my grandfather's family is from Cimbario in Calabria, and my grandmother's side is from Sambuca in Sicily, while my father's side of the family is Polish-German. Ironically, when I first started studying Italian in high school in Chicago, my father was not the most happy person. He thought that I should study something more, a language that was more important, like Spanish. Actually, not more important, more useful, he would say. So, however, he always supported my decision to take Italian, and I studied Italian for 2 years at a Catholic high school in Chicago. And then my parents sent me retired to Arkansas, where I took Spanish and French, and then moved back to Chicago for university, where I studied Italian and English literature at Dominican University. And then from there, my interest in Italian studies continued to grow, and now I'm interested in contemporary Italian literature and film. So, being from Chicago, I was asked to talk a little bit about the Italian-American community there. I was born and raised there until I was 16, and I only really experienced the Italian-American community in my own family. My father was Polish-German, my mother was Italian, so we would always get together during the holidays and celebrate San Giuseppe, or my grandparents would come for the entire Easter week, and we'd spend Easter week together. It was only when I came back for university at Dominican University when I actually encountered the entire Italian-American community. I was the only third generation Italian American in my classes. Everyone else was first generation. So I would be able to go from one person's house every Sunday. I would go to a different friend's house and have dinner, and I would speak with the parents and the grandparents and the cousins in Italian, whereas my friends wanted to only speak in English because they were, first generation born there. So for me, it was a great experience, and it was through many of them that I wouldn't say initiated my passion for Italian, but executed and lived and learned a lot, not only from a cultural perspective, but also I started to listen to dialect, right? Because we'd go into one house, they were Sicilian, another house, they were Barese, another house, they were Calabrese. And from there, also my friends would bring me to Italian Club, where I held different positions all 4 years, including president my senior year, but also to Casa Italia, which was the local community center where all groups of Italian American migrants would come and reconvene, have their feste, like La Festa di San Francesco di Paola, etc., etc. And there we actually would help and volunteer and do all kinds of activities with the local Italian Americans, or Italians at that point also. And it was my first experience with native speakers outside of my one Italian professor in the classroom. And then of course I studied abroad, and from there, those types of bonds, those relationships grew and became stronger, and now I try to create those kind of relationships with my own students. Teaching at the University of Arkansas, obviously we don't have a lot of Italian Americans, but there is an Italian American community also there, which originated from Giovanni Caboto, actually, and down the whole Mississippi River. So although I'm in the middle of the country of Arkansas, we still have our own little community, and I bring my students nowadays there to encounter second and third generation Italians. Although Italian is not the language that most people speak anymore, even dialect, what that community has kept alive is Mass in Latin, which is an uncommon thing in Arkansas. So although it's not Mass in Italian like you can frequent all over Chicago, they've kept part of their ritual alive. So. The next question I was asked to think about is, what is Italian American studies and what is its future? For me, being third generation Italian American, the beginning of Italian American studies seems to be in a certain way a documentary or a documenting of what was the experience of the first migrants. With any type of migration or diaspora, as we're calling it in certain places, you have this cultural, religious, political background or baggage that comes with being a migrant, integrated into society. The migrant, the Italian American migrants, for example, had to face different aspects of segregation and had to find ways, whether good or bad, positive or negative, to overcome those types of things. So in the beginnings of Italian American studies, we often see this documenting of life, whether it's through the memoir or through the themes present in the original literature or the artistic or philosophical movements that the Italian Americans saw, whether it was in the United States or Canada or all over the place. But now that, you know, we have 3 generations, or if not 4, of examples of Italian American studies, I think we have a lot. We've come to the point where we see the creative aspect of being Italian American, not only the being other or the question of integration and segregation, but the types of creativity, creative or creative is just one aspect, but what the Italian Americans have given to the predominant society, the predominant culture of the countries that they're living in. So it's no longer the question of the hyphen or not, but a representation of the new migrant in America. What is the future of Italian American studies? That really depends on the place, the focus. I think that Italian American studies on an academic level still is young. Here at the University of Calabria with the Italian American Studies Association in the summer of 2017, we're offering this conference, this symposium on theorizing the Italian diaspora. So now that we're here, now that we have a production, now we're at the moment where we have to actually consider it philosophically and analyze and criticize and critique it. So moving forward, we have something interesting, not only to produce, but to say, to offer the dominant culture that we are living in. And now with this new migratory situation in Italy, there's a lot more interesting aspects to compare and contrast. So now that we have in Italian American studies a nice corpus of material to work with, whether it's literature, art, history, etc., even folklore studies, now what we need to do as scholars, as teachers, is offer the field a theoretical lens. And one of the things that's happening this summer, June 2017, at the University of Calabria, is a symposium in order to offer the young scholars, whether they're American, Canadian, some are coming from Australia, or our colleagues in Italy who are finally studying the diaspora of their own people, are the tools needed in order to bridge the past and the future. However, the future is also a big question, because in Italy, we're just starting to give some attention to this to this camp, to this campo. While in the United States, it's still even very difficult to offer these types of classes. We don't know if we should offer them in Italian departments or in English departments, and then if we offer them in English departments, we put them in American studies or cultural studies. So in order for us to enjoy the future, learn the tools of theory and go ahead and really be productive in not only the academic world, but the active world, the world of activism for our own culture, tradition, and history, scholars are going to need to come together and agree to disagree, to place the field in different disciplines in order for us to approach the material from a multidisciplinary perspective and grow, learn from each other, collaborate, begin projects that have not been done in the past. So all the tools are there. We just need to build the partnerships, whether it's in the United States, in Italy, or other parts of the world. Because as we know, the Italian diaspora is not just an American thing, it's not just an Italian thing, but it's a global thing. In addition to the future of Italian American studies, we also need to think about collaborating, but collaborating both to help each other out, but also as a comparative aspect. Diaspora is not just a phenomenon that has to do with Italian American studies. Thus, it's important that as scholars, academics, and activists, that we collaborate with our colleagues in African American studies, Latino American studies, and ormai, and even today, Asian studies. So that it's not just one aspect of Italian American studies, but as we theorize the concept of diaspora, we can't just pigeonhole ourselves into the Italian aspect, but we have to be collaborative and comparative at the same time. And in this way, we both underscore the differences and the commonalities of our individual experiences, but we also grow together as larger groups. And through growing as groups of scholars and groups of cultural people, we, again, collectively and individually give American culture the flavor that the melting pot ideology, the original concept of the melting pot ideology has provided Americans. Teaching in part of the CLIA program has been an experience beyond my wildest adventures, my wildest dreams, and doing it as a Fulbright scholar is even more interesting because the whole concept of the course Cultura, Letteratura, Italiana, Americana is completely in cohesion with the concepts of Fulbright and the Fulbright Commission and what Senator Fulbright tried to do through this program of bringing scholars and teachers of different cultures and communities together. It's amazing to see in just a short time the growth of not only the program started by Professor Margherita Ganeri, in which her own research really underscores the importance of not just examining Italian American, but inserting Italian American into the Italian tradition, which is part of why I'm here and part of why the course has had so much success, but also on an individual and personal note, to see how the students have developed from September to now. Their interests are veramente, are truly just across the board. They touch all kinds of themes and sub-themes as they're starting to realize, work through, begin writing their individual tezine or little papers, and coming to see me about English questions or thematic questions or bibliographical notes. So it's really interesting to see how much their personal experience and the experience of the course have become almost a symbiosis, a coming together of who they are and a realization of their own personal identities. As we know, identity is not just a singular concept, and we go all the way back to Pirandello to examine that philosophical concept. But it's interesting to see how they view themselves, their others, and even the comments that have come up in class about the new migrants becoming part of this Italian society. It's really amazing to see the level of development of the students in just a 9-month, give or take, period. I really believe that the whole CLIA concept is just the beginning of some really amazing work, not only in Calabria, but hopefully this whole mechanism, as I call it, of visiting professors coming and talking about their own research and their own identities and their own relationships with their material and their identities. This whole coming together will not just be enlightening for themselves and for their students, but also spark an interest not only in the Italian peninsula, but for diaspora studies in general. And I think if anyone can continue to build on the foundation that it already has had and the success which it continually breeds in the last 2 years, it will be with the leadership of Margherita Ganeri. So kudos to her, kudos to the University of Calabria, and I hope that this partnership with diverse professors in America and in North America will lead to even better things, not only for Italian and Italian American studies, but for the whole concept of theorizing diaspora.